All right, hello everyone. My name is Paula Lauren, and I am an assistant professor in the Department of Mathematics and Computer Science. My research, well, I have three concurrent areas of research. My core research area is an area called text-based machine learning. In terms of my growth, research exploration while being a faculty member at Lawrence Tech, I had expanded into two other areas just purely in the past 5 years, and that pertains to interdisciplinary research, and that is with humanities and cognitive psychology. And then the other important research path is computer science education. Okay, so let's talk about, or let me take a moment to discuss briefly my core research area in text-based machine learning. Okay, so I would imagine that all of you have heard of a little application that took the world by storm called ChatGPT, and that was released precisely November 30th of last year. Okay, so this research had been initiated a few years ago, and it's based on the core engine behind ChatGPT, which is GPT. That is stands for Generative Pre-training Model. Now, one of the methods in terms of how does this model work, and one of the core approaches is taking words and breaking them down into subparts, and then these subparts are embedded using a numerical or vector representation. I won't get into all those details here, but I just want to have the key takeaway. So with the concept of taking a word and breaking it down to subparts. Okay, so what you're seeing here is an example. So the table on the left is my proposed approach in terms of refining the GPT tokenization, and then the right table here is the GPT tokenization, right out of the box, like as it stands today. And this is what I mean by subparts. Okay, so let's take the word automobile. All right, so if we were to break that word down into parts, subparts, what would be probably the most meaningful way to do it? Like, what would you think of the most meaningful two words? And I kind of, allude to it here. So my tokenization algorithm, which is refining the core GPT tokenization algorithm, it arrives at really two meaningful subparts for the word automobile, which is auto and mobile. Now, looking at what the current state is with GPT, this would be an example of what it currently does. So the word automobile, the subparts are automobile. So as you can see, not very meaningful if we were going to break it down to subparts. And then you can kind of see, so I just have a selection of about 10 words or so showing the proposed approach and how, in terms of how it takes the word and breaks it down to subparts. For the most part, my proposed approach does provide a meaningful subpart representation. But it's not perfect, but it's a start. As in most research, it's about making incremental process. Incremental improvement. That is really what's core to research. You don't have to solve all the problems in the space or in the domain. Being able to make incremental improvement is significant, and that's an important takeaway. I hope you leave with today's talk in general in terms of conducting research. Okay, so yeah, so where it falls apart here is is the word recycle, right? So you can see recycle, what would make the most intuitive subpart or subword breakdown. And yes, recycle, it would be actually ideal to have RE and then cycle, CYCLE. Right, and that's what GPT gives us. So yeah, not exactly the best approach, but if we look at just the random words selected, overall, it did a pretty decent job. Okay, I see that I spent 4 minutes on here. I have 30 seconds or so. I'm just going to briefly touch upon interdisciplinary research. I work with two other faculty members, Dr. Hamad El-Azari in cognitive psychology, and Dr. Vivian Cow in the digital humanities. And I do have student projects that have been involved in those collaborations. Okay, and then last I want to talk about my other core research path, generative AI in education. And this is the reason actually this paper here for the integrating generative AI with evidence-based learning strategies in computer science and education, engineering education is the reason why I'm not there today to present. I am actually this week in at Texas A&M University presenting on the work in process paper. Okay, I've gone way over time, but I'm hoping that you indulge me for a moment here. I just want to really touch kind of some highlights of what I'm proposing for the summer MiCup program. I would really like to do something with the research and creative works. And the idea here is generative AI fiction. And so I think this is going to be a very exciting project. It's starting with exploring fiction, studying existing fiction works, and trying to get the key ideas. Well, what's behind writing great fiction. And we'll study some of that over the centuries. And then we will, in the second week, explore go from the observer, in terms of and studying these works, to functioning as an architect. We will cover the high level design, the story framework for what we're going to write, and then explore the development of characters. And in week 3 is where the magic happens. And this is where we will harness the large language models such as GPT. There's many. That's one of the ones that have gone mainstream or more so in the news. And then we will use that to bring our characters to life and develop that dialogue. And then the last week we will go through the formal, thorough, very laborious task and see if we can use generative AI to assist us in the process of revising and refining our stories. So that is what I'm looking forward to for next summer. I think this is going to be very exciting, and I know I'm like super over, but I do want to leave this with an idea that I am actually starting to explore. And this is one of my preliminary fictional stories, is entitled Eternal Rose. And this is kind of what I mean, like starting off with, and this is, we will develop this idea. So it's kind of summarizing this is kind of what you would see in, like, let's say, a New York Times book review. You would have typically a sentence explaining just summarizing what is the key idea of the book. And that's what we're going to refine in that part of that 4-week process. So here we have it. A geneticist discovers the secret to immortality, setting off a race against time, rival scientists, and her own morals. All right, so just reflect on that, right? This should give you an idea of who is the story about, right? What is it? There's definitely, even imbued in this statement, this conflict, right? And even this morality crisis going on. So we can see there's something about living forever here, and even encapsulated in the title Eternal Rose. And by the way, this image is generated using generative AI, and this is a rose generated using DALL-E. All right, I've exceeded my limit. I hope that is okay. I look forward to meeting you all in the summer of spring 2024. All right, take care. Looking forward to seeing you all next year.